Okay, let's unpack this. For so many of us, the very word feedback can trigger, well, an automatic flinch, right?
Mm-hmm.
You might picture an awkward conversation, maybe a stinging critique, or even just that, internal sigh.
Definitely. That feeling in your gut.
But what if we told you that feedback, even when it feels uncomfortable, isn't just a necessary evil? What if it's actually one of the most powerful catalysts for truly accelerating your personal and professional growth?
It's a really profound shift in perspective. Instead of bracing for impact, imagine actively seeking out and using these insights to become not just better, but truly well-informed and highly effective.
Yeah.
That's the secret power we're hoping to unlock today.
Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take a stack of information articles, research our own notes, and really extract the most important nuggets of knowledge. We try to give you a shortcut to being well-informed, maybe with some surprising facts and just enough humor, hopefully, to keep you hooked. Today, we're diving into the fascinating and, let's be honest, often challenging world of integrating feedback. Our mission is to go beyond just, receiving it. We want to explore how to genuinely solicit it, how to process it, and crucially, how to act on constructive criticism.
Yeah, turning what might initially feel like a blow into your most potent secret weapon for growth. That's the goal.
Exactly.
And we've gathered insights from various research papers, expert analyses on different feedback models, and even looked into the psychological responses our brains have to critique.
Which is fascinating in itself.
It really is. So our goal today is to cut through the noise, give you a clear, actionable roadmap. You'll discover not just what works, but also why it works. Uncover those surprising facts about why feedback sometimes hurts so much. Learn some proven frameworks for both giving and receiving it effectively. And hopefully you'll walk away with practical tools to turn pretty much every piece of input into fuel for your own aha moments and, continuous improvement.
It's all about unlocking potential, isn't it?
Absolutely. And we're going to show you how.
So let's begin with a fundamental question, one that really shifts our entire perspective. Why should we even bother with feedback? Especially when, as you mentioned, our brains are kind of instinctively wired to resist it.
That's a great starting point.
The core premise here, and it's truly transformative if you can embrace it, is that feedback is a gift. It's an invaluable insight that helps us become better versions of ourselves.
Precisely. Think of it this way. We all have blind spots. We just do.
Everyone.
Everyone. These are the things about ourselves, maybe our habits, our communication styles, our impact on others that we simply cannot perceive on our own. We're just too close to it.
Right.
So feedback is like someone holding up a mirror, but it's a special mirror, one that shows you angles you'd never normally catch. It illuminates those areas that are invisible to you, but often, well, sometimes glaringly obvious to everyone else.
I really appreciate that analogy. A mirror, not a dagger. It makes so much sense. Imagine like a common scenario.
Yeah.
A colleague points out that you frequently interrupt others in team meetings.
Okay, yeah. Happens all the time.
Right. When you first hear that, it might sting. Right. Your ego might immediately jump up to defend itself. It's uncomfortable, maybe even embarrassing, to hear you're doing something that impacts others negatively.
Sure.
But if you can truly embrace that discomfort as a gift, as a chance to see your own blind spot, that insight can become a profound turning point. That initial sting transforms into motivation, empowering you to become maybe a more thoughtful, more respectful communicator.
And that change isn't trivial. When you change that behavior, it genuinely improves your relationships, not just at work, but like anywhere.
Exactly.
And this isn't just limited to the workplace or, formal performance reviews. Feedback comes from every corner of our lives. Your boss, sure, but also your peers, your spouse, friends, mentors.
Even your kids.
Oh, especially your kids. They have no filter sometimes. Each piece of input, no matter the source or how casually it's delivered, is a chance to understand the ripple effect of your actions. It's about recognizing how your behavior lands with others, allowing you to fine-tune your approach and interactions for better outcomes across the board.
This brings us to the immense power of openness and cultivating what we call a growth mindset. Kim Zoller, an author and expert on leadership, really drives home this idea.
Yeah, she's great on this.
But when we approach feedback with genuine openness and a growth mindset, we don't just endure it. We actively use it to learn and improve. Instead of experiencing stress or frustration, it transforms into an opportunity. And what's truly fascinating is how this openness impacts not just you, but your relationships.
That's a crucial point. Actively soliciting feedback from multiple directions, actually asking people for their honest observations, doesn't just improve your skills or awareness, it powerfully signals to those around you that you genuinely value their perspective, that you are committed to self-improvement. And maybe most importantly, that you trust them enough to be vulnerable.
That vulnerability piece is huge.
It is. And over time, this consistent act of valuing others' input builds deep trust and strengthens relationships in any setting, work, home, social circles. You become a person who fosters a culture where honesty and continuous growth can actually thrive.
And speaking of honesty, this is where Brené Brown's famous quote, "Clear is kind," comes into play. It resonates so deeply with the feedback process.
Oh, absolutely.
Clear, direct feedback, delivered with good intent, is truly an act of kindness because it provides the clarity you need for improvement. It cuts through assumptions, ambiguity.
Yeah, the guessing games.
Exactly. It encourages honesty from others because they see you can handle it. And just as importantly, it encourages radical self-honesty within yourself.
Absolutely. Think about it. If someone isn't clear with you about an issue, you're left guessing, making assumptions, maybe repeating the same mistake over and over. That's not kind.
No, it's frustrating.
Clarity, even if it feels a bit uncomfortable in the moment, gives you the precise information needed to change course. And here's a really profound insight. Even if the feedback isn't, wrapped in a pretty package, maybe it's poorly delivered, maybe the messenger has their own flaws.
Which happens.
Oh, it happens all the time. There is almost always a valuable kernel of validity inside that you can use for your own growth. The challenge and the real skill lies in finding that kernel amidst the uncomfortable feelings and the imperfect delivery. You have to actively filter for the truth, regardless of the noise around it.
So really, before we even get into the practical models and how-tos, the first, arguably most important step is to genuinely reframe how you see feedback.
That mental shift.
Yes, it's not an attack, it's an opportunity. Make a conscious decision. Okay, feedback is helpful, feedback is a gift. Embrace that mindset, and you've honestly already won half the battle.
Well said.
Now let's address the elephant in the room. Why criticism can be so tough to hear, and why it often just, it hurts.
Yeah, the sting.
If you've ever felt your heart race, your face flush, or that awful pit in your stomach when someone points out your mistakes, you are absolutely not alone. There's a deeply ingrained, almost primal reason for that visceral reaction.
Yeah, from a psychological and even biological standpoint, our brains are wired for survival, deeply wired. They perceive critical feedback as a threat, maybe a threat to our status, our competence, or even our sense of belonging within the group.
Like being kicked out of the tribe.
Exactly. Research in neuroscience actually shows that receiving negative feedback activates the very same neural pathways in the brain as if we were facing actual physical danger. It triggers our ancient fight-or-flight response.
So it's like when your boss gives you a negative review or a friend points out a flaw, your brain in that split second can literally react as if a saber-toothed tiger just jumped out from behind the water cooler.
Laughs slightly. Pretty much. Your body floods with stress hormones. It's a remarkable, almost absurd physiological response to words, but our wiring is incredibly old.
And this threat prioritization is incredibly powerful, isn't it? Our brains focus way more on the negative.
Oh, disproportionately. Our brain naturally dedicates far more mental resources. Some research suggests up to 5 times more to dealing with perceived dangers than it does to processing positive input.
Wow, 5 times?
Yeah. Which is why one harsh comment can rattle us so profoundly and just dominate our thoughts, even if we receive 10 pieces of positive praise that same day. Our brain is quite literally wired to react defensively and stressfully to criticism. It's a survival mechanism that, while useful maybe on the savannah, can really hinder growth in modern interpersonal situations.
So it's vital to recognize that this emotional resistance, this instinct to get defensive, deny things, make excuses, it's completely normal.
Totally normal. Our ego feels attacked, and our first urge is self-protection. It's an automatic, often unconscious defense mechanism.
But here's the crucial insight, right?
Yeah.
While that defensive surge is natural, we don't have to be ruled by it.
Exactly. That's the key. The first step to overcoming the sting of criticism is simply recognizing this biological reaction for what it is, knowing that okay, my brain is in fight or flight mode right now because of this comment, can help you create a tiny but crucial pause.
That pause is everything. It allows your prefrontal cortex, your rational thinking brain, to come back online and regain control from your amygdala, the part driving those emotional reactions. It's often called name it to tame it. Just acknowledging the feeling, wow, I feel defensive right now, can lessen its power over you.
So once you've named it, created that pause, how do you actively cultivate a more growth-oriented response right there in the moment? We've got some practical strategies for you. First, breathe and listen.
Sounds almost too simple, doesn't it?
It does, but it's foundational. Make a commitment to yourself to just listen, to truly take in what's being said, instead of immediately formulating a rebuttal in your head, which is our totally natural inclination.
Oh yeah, we're already crafting our defense. Focus on understanding. Stay present, stay mindful. This helps you actually hear the valuable information instead of getting lost in your own emotional whirlwind and planning your counterattack.
Second strategy, separate feelings from facts. Acknowledge your emotional reaction internally. Ouch, that hurt. Or, wow, I feel embarrassed. Maybe vent those feelings later on paper in your journal, not necessarily in the moment, to the feedback giver.
Right. Keep it internal for now.
Then intentionally pivot and zero in on the objective content of the feedback. Remind yourself that feedback is simply someone's perspective. It's a data point. It's not an absolute immutable truth about who you are as a person.
That's a good reminder. It's a perspective, not the truth.
Exactly. By focusing on the key message, on the specific behavior or situation, rather than the tone or your bruised ego, you'll respond much more calmly and rationally. This is how you find that kernel of validity, by asking, okay, regardless of how I feel about their delivery, what is the specific observable behavior they are referring to?
Third, and this is a powerful reframe, adopt a learner's curiosity.
I like this one.
Instead of viewing feedback as an attack, try treating it like a puzzle, maybe a riddle or a challenge that you get to solve. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? What problem can I now identify and fix? Shift your internal narrative from, oh, they're saying I did poorly because I'm inadequate, to something like, okay, they're pointing out something I didn't do as well as I could. Great, now I know exactly where I can get better. I have new data.
That fundamentally flips you from a threat mindset to a growth mindset, where every piece of input, even critical input, becomes an opportunity for development.
Yeah.
For instance, if a mentor tells you your presentation felt a bit disorganized, instead of getting defensive, what do you mean? I worked really hard on that. Respond with genuine curiosity.
Like what?
You might say, okay, I appreciate you telling me that. Could you tell me maybe which parts felt unclear? Or where did the flow seem to break down for you? How might I improve the structure or delivery next time to make it more impactful?
See, that opens up the conversation.
Totally. It demonstrates you value their input, you're open to improvement, and it subtly encourages them to keep giving you honest, constructive feedback in the future because they see it's actually valued and acted upon. That's a sign of real strength, not weakness.
Fourth point, don't judge the messenger. And equally important, don't judge yourself. Sometimes we're so quick to dismiss feedback because of who it comes from. You know, what does he know about this project anyway?
Or the flip side, harsh self-criticism. Oh, I'm so terrible for messing up. I'm such a failure. We beat ourselves up.
Yeah. Try to actively set aside those judgments, whether the feedback comes from a boss, a peer, a parent, even your kid. Focus on what's being said, the message itself, rather than how you feel about the person delivering it or their particular style.
And actively avoid spiraling into self-flagellation. Remember, needing improvement doesn't make you a failure. It makes you human and, crucially, capable of growth. Truly strong people are those willing to admit they're not perfect and are committed to working on themselves. This self-compassion is actually a critical component of a growth mindset. It allows you to see mistakes as learning opportunities, not as evidence of some fundamental flaw.
Fifth, and I mentioned this earlier, view feedback as a mirror, not a dagger. Its purpose is to reveal what you can't see on your own, to help you understand your impact and your blind spots, not to wound you or diminish you. If you can truly internalize that, even tough feedback starts to feel more like a helpful revelation, a piece of critical data that enables your progress.
There's a really powerful anecdote about a professional who, during a particularly harsh performance review, responded not with defensiveness, but with incredible vulnerability and a genuine desire to improve. Her manager had laid out a series of pretty significant issues.
Oh wow, that sounds tough.
Yeah, and instead of pushing back or making excuses, she simply looked at him and said, you know what? You're right. Can you help me?
Wow, that takes guts.
Huge guts. And that response, apparently stunned her manager in the best possible way. It completely disarmed his critical stance. It transformed what could have been a purely negative, one-sided moment into a collaborative discussion focused on improvement.
Amazing.
It didn't just earn her manager's respect, it built a deeper relationship rooted in trust and actual mentorship. By acknowledging the feedback and inviting collaboration, she turned a moment of potential criticism into an opportunity for profound growth and strengthened rapport. That's the ultimate power of vulnerability coupled with a growth mindset.
And finally, the sixth strategy. Build resilience. Receiving feedback is like working a muscle.
Totally. It gets easier with practice.
The more you practice, the stronger and more resilient you become. Each time you survive a tough critique, successfully filter it for that kernel of validity, and then actually use it to get better, you prove to yourself that feedback won't break you. It will build you. You create a positive feedback loop within yourself.
And over time, as you gain confidence in your ability to learn and adapt, each feedback conversation genuinely becomes easier. You'll start to appreciate feedback for the gift it is, understanding its direct link to your personal and professional evolution. In fact, in organizations with a true growth culture, employees don't just tolerate feedback, they actually begin to crave it.
Really?
Crave it.
Yeah, because they understand it's the fastest key to reaching their goals and unlocking their full potential. And you absolutely can cultivate that same craving for growth in your own life. It just takes practice and intention.
Okay, so now that we've really grappled with the internal battle of receiving feedback and how to manage it, the next logical step is to consider the other side of the coin. How do we give feedback effectively so it actually lands well and truly helps others grow? Yeah, this is critical because, let's face it, not all feedback is created equal. Unstructured, vague, or poorly delivered feedback can be incredibly frustrating for everyone involved, even if the intent behind it is good. That's why having proven frameworks isn't just a nicety. It makes feedback clearer, more constructive, and frankly, much easier for the recipient to digest and act upon. When management and coaching specialists started developing these models, it was a direct response to the clear need for better structure and a more, well, humane approach.
And speaking of methods, we absolutely have to talk about the infamous feedback sandwich.
Ties theatrically. Oh, the sandwich.
We all know it, right? You start with a positive comment, something nice.
The fluffy bread.
Then you deliver the negative criticism, the actual point.
The soggy filling.
And then you finish with another positive comment to soften the blow and leave the conversation on a supposedly positive note.
It's remarkably popular. It's been around for decades. A 2023 survey found that, get this, 86% of people have received a feedback sandwich.
Wow, that high.
Yeah. And a staggering 95% admit to having given one. It's often taught as a textbook example of how to give feedback nicely, but the reality is it's largely ineffective, and sometimes it's even counterproductive.
Okay, so why does something so widely used often fail? Why doesn't it work?
Well, for one, it's incredibly predictable. People aren't stupid. Recipients quickly catch on. The moment the praise begins, they tense up, thinking, okay, here comes the but.
Bracing for impact.
Exactly. This predictability undermines the entire feedback process because people are waiting for the other shoe to drop rather than genuinely hearing the positive or the constructive part.
That makes sense. The praise feels fake.
Totally. It fundamentally undermines trust in genuine praise. Employees might start to wonder if any compliment is sincere or if it's just a manipulative prelude to criticism.
Yeah, that's damaging.
And the constructive message itself often gets diluted, kind of obscured between those bread slices, potentially confusing the recipient about what they should truly focus on. They might leave the conversation only remembering the last positive comment, completely missing the actionable insight in the middle.
So it fails at its core purpose.
Pretty much. It creates one-way communication rather than an open dialogue, and it often feels disingenuous. At best, maybe, it's suited only for flagging really small, low-impact mistakes where the stakes are minimal. As one source we looked at bluntly put it, sandwiches are great for lunch and picnics, not for feedback.
Okay, point taken. No more sandwiches. So let's move past the sandwich and dive into some key feedback models designed for real clarity, deeper understanding, and actionable impact. We won't list every single model out there, obviously, but we'll really dig into a few powerful ones that give you a solid foundation.
Sounds good. Let's start with arguably one of the most popular and foundational, the SBI model, Situation Behavior Impact. This was developed by the highly respected Center for Creative Leadership, and it's incredibly effective for specific objective feedback.
Okay, SBI. How does it work? What makes it so widely recommended?
The SBI model provides a clear three-part structure that really aims to strip away judgment and focus purely on observable facts. You start by describing the situation, the specific context, the time, the place where the occurrence happened.
Okay, be precise.
Very precise. For example, yesterday during the team meeting, or in the client call this morning. The goal is to avoid generalities like you always or you never, and set a clear, indisputable scene, almost like putting a timestamp on a video recording.
Got it. Situation first, then.
Then comes behavior. Here, you explain the specific observable actions. You need to stick rigorously to facts, not interpretations or judgments. So instead of saying you were distracted, which is a judgment call.
Right, you don't know that for sure.
Exactly. You'd say something like, you interrupted twice while Sarah was speaking. Or, I noticed you checked your phone frequently during the presentation. This is about describing what a neutral third-party observer would see or hear. This objectivity is absolutely crucial because it significantly reduces defensiveness. You're not attacking the person's character, you're describing their actions.
Okay. Situation, behavior, and finally, impact.
Yes, impact. You describe the effect of that specific behavior. This could be the impact on you personally, on the team, on a client, or on the overall outcome or project. For instance, as a result, some valuable ideas weren't heard, and I noticed the team felt a bit discouraged. Or, using an I statement, I felt frustrated because I lost my train of thought when I was interrupted.
Those I statements are key for the impact part.
They can be very powerful, yes. Focusing on your experience of the impact I noticed, makes the feedback harder to refute and invites empathy, rather than making the recipient feel blamed or attacked. It keeps it grounded in your observation of the consequences.
Okay, the benefits of SBI seem pretty clear. Clarity, objectivity.
Immense benefits. It forces clarity and objectivity for both the giver and receiver. Because it focuses on specific actions, not personality traits, it naturally reduces defensiveness. It encourages deep reflection on the part of the receiver, prompting them to connect their actions to the outcomes. And it makes feedback inherently actionable because it's tied to a tangible behavior you can actually change.
And you mentioned research supports this.
Yes, research actually shows it reduces anxiety for those giving the feedback because they have a clear script to follow, and significantly reduces defensiveness for those receiving it because they don't feel personally attacked. It creates a safer space for the conversation.
That makes perfect sense. By being so objective, you're creating a space for real learning.
Yeah.
But you mentioned it has a limitation, right? It's not perfect.
It does have one main limitation. Its primary drawback is that it doesn't explicitly include a recommendation or discussion about future action. While it's excellent for positive feedback, when you did X, the impact was Y, great job, or simply raising awareness about a behavior. For constructive criticism, you often need to add a follow-up question or an implied next step to make it fully actionable.
Can you give an example of adding that?
Sure, let's say you use SBI. In this morning's client call situation, when you didn't have the specific sales data we discussed ready, behavior, I noticed the client became frustrated and we couldn't make the final decision on the spot, delaying the project impact. That's pure SBI.
Right.
To make it actionable, you'd then add something like, so going forward, how can we ensure that critical data is always double-checked and ready before these important calls? What support might you need from me or the team to make that happen? See how that shifts it from just observation to collaborative problem solving.
Yes, that bridges the gap nicely. Okay, so building beautifully on SBI, we have the COIN model: context, observation, impact, next steps. This model was introduced by Anna Carroll, and, well, as the name suggests, it adds that crucial fourth step for future action, making it incredibly comprehensive and collaborative.
Exactly. COIN takes the core strengths of SBI and makes the action part explicit. Context is similar to SBI's situation, setting the scene. It can even involve a bit of rapport building, like a warm, hello, thanks for making time to chat.
Okay.
Observation is, again, the objective description of behavior, just like in SBI, making sure you avoid interpreting motives or making assumptions. So I observed that 2 of the slides in the presentation had data errors and you seemed a bit nervous delivering them. Rather than jumping to, you clearly didn't prepare enough, keep it factual.
Stick to the facts. Got it. And impact covers the consequences or effects of that behavior, again using those powerful I statements if it affected you directly. For example, because of those data errors, we spent an extra 15 minutes in the meeting verifying the facts, and I noticed the client's confidence seemed a little shaken afterwards, which concerned me.
Right. But what makes CON truly shine, and what really elevates it beyond SBI for driving actionable change, is the next steps. This isn't just about the giver dictating what should happen. It's designed as a collaborative discussion on specific, actionable steps for improvement, or, if it's positive feedback, for continuation.
So it involves the recipient more.
Crucially, yes. It involves the recipient in finding solutions. It's not about you telling them exactly what to do, but about working together. You might ask, so knowing the impact that had, what do you think we could do differently next time to prevent this? What are your ideas? How does that sound? This shared ownership leads to disproportionately higher commitment from the recipient because they've actually had a hand in crafting the solution. They're bought in.
The benefits of Kuan seem really clear then. It ensures feedback leads directly to growth and tangible change. It uses a compassionate, respectful approach.
Which builds mutual respect and reinforces the idea that you're a partner in their development, not just a critic. This collaborative aspect dramatically increases the likelihood of commitment and follow-through from the recipient.
And it's versatile too, right? Not just for work.
Absolutely. It can be used professionally, of course, but also personally, like your earlier example. Hey, when we were at the family dinner last night, context, I noticed you checked your phone multiple times while we were talking. Observation. It honestly made me feel unheard and a little hurt, like I wasn't important enough to have your full attention at that moment. Impact. Could we maybe agree on some next steps for future dinners? Perhaps we both try putting our phones away during meals so we can really focus on each other and connect? What do you think? Next steps.
See how specific and actionable that is. It's not accusatory. It's framed as a shared problem to solve together.
Exactly. That personal example really highlights its utility beyond just the office walls. It demonstrates how these structured models can transform even potentially difficult personal conversations into productive, even loving dialogues aimed at improvement.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly and talk about the 360-degree feedback model. This one sounds comprehensive. It's also known as multi-source assessment or multi-rater feedback.
Yes, and it has a fascinating history, actually originating in the German military during World War II as a way to gather more comprehensive insights into leadership capabilities from different perspectives.
Wow, military origins. How does it work today in, say, a corporate setting?
Its core principle remains similar. The process involves systematically collecting feedback about an individual from various sources, typically their manager, peers, or colleagues, direct reports or subordinates, and sometimes even external stakeholders like clients. This is usually done through structured, often anonymous, surveys or questionnaires.
Anonymous is probably key there.
Often, yes, to encourage candor. And crucially, a good 360 process always includes a self-evaluation component. This allows the recipient to compare their own perception of their strengths and weaknesses against how others perceive them. That gap analysis can be incredibly revealing.
So once all that feedback is collected, maybe anonymously, what happens next? Does someone just get handed a big report?
Hopefully not. Typically, the recipient's direct manager, or sometimes an HR facilitator, organizes a private, confidential meeting to review this collated feedback with the individual. Together, they analyze the themes, identify patterns, both strengths and areas for development, and then critically outline a concrete future development plan based on this detailed, multifaceted evaluation.
The benefits seem pretty significant. You get a truly holistic view.
Exactly. A holistic view of performance from multiple angles, which inherently helps mitigate the bias of relying on just one person's opinion, like only your boss's perspective. It's especially beneficial in situations where a manager might not be involved in all of an employee's projects day to day, or perhaps if there's a strained relationship between the manager and employee, as it provides counterbalancing data points.
Yes, and can surface things you might not even realize about yourself.
Absolutely. It can surface hidden strengths that the recipient themselves might overlook or underappreciate. For example, several peers might consistently praise your exceptional collaboration skills or your willingness to help others, something your manager, perhaps more focused on your individual metrics, might not fully see or emphasize.
But it's not without its challenges, I imagine. Getting feedback from potentially conflicting sources.
Definitely not without challenges. The quality and honesty of the feedback heavily rely on the level of psychological safety within the organization or team. If people fear retribution for giving honest, critical feedback, they'll likely give watered-down, overly positive, or generic responses, making the entire exercise pretty useless.
Right. Trust is paramount.
And managing and interpreting potentially conflicting feedback can be tricky. As you said, one person might rate you as being too direct in your communication, while another might say you're not direct enough. It requires skillful facilitation, maturity from the recipient, and a real commitment to self-reflection to truly integrate these diverse perspectives. The goal isn't to try and please everyone, but rather to identify consistent patterns and genuine areas for growth.
So these models, SBI, Koyan, 360 degree, they really emphasize structure and intentionality. And you mentioned there are many others.
Oh, lots. There's IDEA, identify, describe, encourage action, which is great for actively inciting change. There are coaching frameworks like GROW, goal reality options will, that integrate feedback into goal setting. Others focus on specific communication elements like NVC, nonviolent communication, which hones in on empathetic communication through understanding thoughts, feelings, needs, and making clear requests. We can do a whole deep dive just on the models.
Maybe we will someday. But the key takeaway across all of them seems to be that structure leads to clarity, and clarity leads to better outcomes.
Precisely. What's consistently fascinating and important for listeners to grasp is that there's no single one-size-fits-all magic bullet when it comes to choosing the right feedback model. Different scenarios clearly call for different approaches. The most effective approach always considers the specific content of the feedback. Is it about a behavior, an outcome, a skill? The individual receiving it? What's their personality, their experience level, their relationship with you, and the nature of the relationship you have with them? You're essentially choosing the right tool for the specific job at hand.
Okay, so if traditional feedback, even with these great models, often focuses on what went wrong or what happened in the past, what if we just kind of skipped that potentially uncomfortable part and went straight to focusing on the future?
Now you're talking about feed-forward. And yes, it's a really revolutionary concept that's gaining significant traction, particularly in leadership development.
Feed forward. Tell us more. What exactly is it?
Feed-forward is essentially a method of teaching and learning that provides suggestions specifically for future positive behavior or paths towards achieving a goal. It focuses exclusively on what one could do right or differently in the future.
So it's distinct from feedback.
Critically distinct. Feedback primarily uses past events for reflection and improvement. Feed-forward intentionally doesn't dwell on past mistakes or successes. As Marshall Goldsmith, who really popularized this concept in the management world, often says, you can't change the past, but you can change the future.
That makes so much sense. It's inherently proactive and solutions-oriented, not focused on dissecting past errors or perceived failures.
Exactly. The term feed-forward itself was actually coined way back in 1951 by I.A. Richards, a literary critic, believe it or not. And it was later applied in behavioral science by Peter W. Dowrick in 1976.
That's interesting. It's historical context.
It really is. Dowrick associated it particularly with something called video self-modeling, or VSM. This involved showing individuals, often children with learning or behavioral challenges, edited videos of themselves successfully performing a desired future behavior.
Like faking it till you make it, but visually.
Kind of. For example, a child with selective mutism might be shown a carefully edited video, merging footage of them talking comfortably at home into a scene of them at school. This could lead to what Dowrick called ultra-rapid learning by essentially reconfiguring existing component behaviors into new skills. The underlying idea is that our brain learns incredibly effectively from seeing future successes, even if those successes are initially edited or imagined. It creates a powerful mental blueprint for what is possible, rather than reinforcing what went wrong.
That's a truly powerful distinction. Okay, so what are the key benefits of using this feed-forward approach in, say, a normal conversation or a work setting? Why should we actively seek out and give feed-forward?
Well, first and foremost, feed-forward is almost always perceived as positive, or at least neutral, because it naturally focuses on solutions and possibilities, not problems and past failures. It completely sidesteps that defensive "let me prove you were wrong" trap that traditional feedback can sometimes fall into.
And because it's discussing something that hasn't actually happened yet, it can't really involve a personal critique of a past action, right? It avoids triggering the ego defense.
Precisely. It makes it far less likely to be defensively received because, as one source pointed out, and it's worth repeating, in practice, almost all feedback is taken personally, no matter how it is delivered. Feed-forward, by its very definition, tends to bypass this personal defensiveness.
That's huge.
It also powerfully reinforces the possibility of positive future change. Unlike negative feedback, which can sometimes inadvertently reinforce feelings of failure, or that fixed mindset idea of, oh, well, this is just the way you are, feed forward implicitly says, you absolutely can do this differently, and here are some concrete ideas on how.
I can see how that would feel much more empowering, especially maybe for high achievers who are always looking forward. And you mentioned it's faster and more efficient, too.
Absolutely. Simple, concrete suggestions can be offered very quickly and succinctly. Marshall Goldsmith actually suggests phrasing it something like this. Here are 4 ideas for you to consider for the future. Please accept these in the positive spirit that they are given, and feel free absolutely ignore anything that doesn't make sense for you.
No pressure to accept at all.
Exactly. This approach wastes almost no time on judgment, debate, or dissecting past errors. It's direct, it's actionable, and it's entirely forward-looking.
It sounds particularly well suited for successful people who maybe prefer goal-oriented ideas over negative judgment, people who are constantly seeking ways to optimize and keep moving forward.
Yes, Goldsmith finds it works especially well with senior executives for that reason, and it also has a broader potential source. Feed forward can come from anyone, even people who don't have extensive personal experience with the individual or the specific past event you might be thinking about. You can learn a lot, even from people you don't know well, simply by asking them for general ideas on future improvement in a certain area. And crucially, recipients tend to listen more attentively during feed forward. Why? Because they don't feel the need to formulate a defensive reply or justification in their head while the other person is talking. They just need to listen and, ideally, say thank you.
Ah, the thank you rule. That sounds brilliant. Can you explain that?
It's incredibly simple but effective. When you receive feed-forward suggestions, the only response you are allowed to make is thank you. No critique of the suggestion, oh, I've tried that before. No debating its merits, no defending yourself or explaining past actions, just thank you.
Boy, just thank you.
This simple rule removes judgment from the interaction entirely, both judgment of the ideas and judgment of the giver. It encourages pure brainstorming and open idea generation, making the giver feel safer to offer more creative or unconventional suggestions.
I can see how that would work. Can you give an example?
Sure. Let's say you want to be a better listener in meetings. You could approach a trusted colleague and say, hey, I'm working on being a better listener in our team meetings. Could you give me 2 concrete suggestions for how I could do that going forward?
Okay.
They might suggest, well, maybe when someone finishes speaking, you could try pausing for 3 full seconds before you jump in. Or maybe try summarizing what you heard the other person say before you offer your own opinion. Your only job is to listen and then say, thank you for those suggestions. That's it.
And then you process them later on your own.
Exactly. You internalize the suggestions, reflect on them privately, and decide which ones, if any, you want to act on. There's no discussion about past instances where you were a bad listener. The focus remains solely on actionable future behaviors.
And this proactive, future-focused approach can be integrated into how you ask for feedback too, right?
Yeah.
Shifting the language slightly.
Absolutely. Instead of asking the potentially threatening question, what did I do wrong on that project? Look, Adam Grant, the organizational psychologist we mentioned, suggests reframing it as, what's one thing I could do better next time?
Subtle difference, but sounds powerful.
It's a subtle but profound shift. It rephrases the request as asking for advice rather than evaluation. This invites coaching, which feels much more positive and less threatening, and tends to yield more specific, actionable input than a generic request for feedback. It positions the other person as a helpful mentor, not a judge grading your past performance. You're inviting collaboration on future success.
So ultimately, feed forward and feedback, rather than being these opposing forces, actually form a crucial dynamic loop for continuous growth. It's not one or the other.
Exactly right. They complement each other beautifully. Feed forward provides that essential forward momentum, focusing on future goals and offering proactive, positive guidance. Feedback then complements it by offering those valuable retrospective insights, helping you identify strengths and areas for improvement based on actual past performance.
So you need both perspectives, looking back and looking forward.
You absolutely need both for optimal learning and adaptation. Imagine a kind of control system, either in an organization or even just in your personal life, for managing your goals. Feed forward acts like the set point or the target where you want to go, providing proactive adjustments to get you there. Feedback then acts like the sensor that tells you how you've actually performed against that target, allowing for necessary corrective action based on reality.
Okay, that analogy helps clarify it.
Organizations and individuals can consciously integrate these control systems to continuously monitor and adjust both their feedback and feed-forward mechanisms. Doing this consistently promotes a robust culture of continuous reflection, adaptation, and that all-important growth mindset. It's about leveraging both looking back and looking forward for a truly comprehensive approach to development that constantly moves you towards your goals.
Okay, fantastic. Now that we've really explored the why of feedback, the challenges, various models for giving it, and this exciting concept of feed-forward, let's turn to some really concrete, actionable strategies for receiving and proactively soliciting feedback. Because, getting it is one thing, but integrating it into your daily growth is where the real magic happens.
Absolutely. And a fantastic, truly transformative practical tool that anyone can use is journaling to process feedback. This simple act turns what can often feel like overwhelming, emotionally charged input into a thoughtful, rational improvement plan.
How does writing it down help so much?
Well, when you take the time to actually write about the feedback, you engage the rational, analytical part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex we talked about earlier. This is incredibly effective at helping you separate the raw facts of the feedback from the emotional feelings it triggered. It helps you move from that initial emotional reaction to a more logical, constructive response.
Okay, so how exactly does that work in practice? Is there like a template or a process you recommend for a feedback reflection journal?
There is, and it can be quite simple. Think of it as a 5-step process you can follow each time you receive significant feedback. First, record the feedback. Just objectively write down exactly what was said. Try to capture the situation, the specific behavior described, and the stated impact, maybe using that SBI framework mentally. Writing it down helps ensure you truly heard it accurately, rather than remembering a distorted version colored by your initial emotional response. Be like a neutral court reporter, just getting the facts down.
Okay, just the facts first. Step 2.
Step 2, note your reaction. This is where you get really honest with yourself privately on the page. How did that feedback make you feel? Were you angry, ashamed, defensive, sad, confused, maybe even relieved? Vent those feelings directly onto the page. This is your safe space to process the raw emotion without judgment. It's a powerful act of self-awareness and emotional intelligence, allowing you to acknowledge and process the emotion without necessarily lashing out at the messenger or letting it fester inside you. Get it out on the page instead.
Right, get the emotion out. Then what?
Third, and this is absolutely crucial, find the value. After the initial emotional storm has maybe passed a bit, consciously ask yourself, okay, what truth or useful insight can I genuinely take from this? What is the kernel of validity here? Even if the feedback was delivered poorly, or if you disagree with large parts of it, there's almost always a tiny nugget of truth in there that applies to you, something you can learn from.
So you're panning for gold, essentially.
Exactly. You need to step back from the emotional packaging of the feedback, the tone, the delivery, your feelings about the giver, and ask yourself again, what is the specific observable behavior they are referring to, and what was its real impact, regardless of how I feel about it? Learn to selectively accept the useful parts and consciously discard the unhelpful noise or unfair judgments. It's a critical filtering skill.
Okay, find the value, then step 4.
Step 4, identify action steps. This is where you bridge the gap from processing the feedback to doing something about it. This is where you turn raw feedback into proactive feed-forward for yourself. Brainstorm 1 or 2 small, specific, tangible actions you can take to improve or address the core issue raised in the feedback. This moves you from just thinking about it, rumination, to actual action.
Into concrete.
Very concrete. For example, if the feedback was about missing deadlines, your action step shouldn't be try harder. It should be something specific like, I will break down large projects into smaller tasks with mini deadlines in my calendar, or I will block out specific focus time slots each day to work on priority projects. Make it measurable and achievable.
And the final step?
Finally, step 5. Express gratitude. This might feel counterintuitive, especially if the feedback was tough to hear. But make a point to write down a note of thanks in your journal. And if it feels appropriate and genuine, consider expressing that thanks directly to the person who gave you the feedback.
Why gratitude?
This seemingly simple act does wonders for shifting your mindset towards openness and growth. By consciously reminding yourself feedback is a gift, even when it's hard, you actively reinforce a growth-oriented, non-defensive attitude that will serve you incredibly well in all future feedback interactions. It trains your brain to see feedback as helpful, not harmful.
And doing this regularly, this journaling process, it becomes a habit.
Exactly. Regular feedback journaling isn't just a one-off exercise for major reviews. It builds a powerful, ongoing habit of reflection and continuous improvement. You'll start to internalize this five-step process, almost automatically parsing feedback you receive into, okay, what happened? What do I feel about it? What can I genuinely learn, and what am I going to do differently now? That becomes a genuine superpower for accelerating your personal and professional growth.
That sounds incredibly useful. Are there other tools, maybe more structured templates, besides freeform journaling?
Absolutely. If freeform journaling isn't your style, you can use more structured feedback reflection templates. A simple feedback log might be a spreadsheet or a notebook with columns for date, who source of feedback, key feedback message, my initial reaction thoughts, my action plan with specifics, and maybe a follow-up date to check progress. That action plan column is particularly crucial for ensuring tangible commitment and accountability.
I like the idea of a log. What else?
Another great framework is the 4A's framework. First, accept the feedback openly. Listen without defending. Second, analyze it. What are the main takeaways? The kernel of truth. Third, apply it. Decide specifically what changes you will make. And fourth, assess later whether those changes actually worked. There's also the simple but effective stop-start-continue exercise. You can ask feedback givers or even just reflect for yourself. Based on this feedback, what should I stop doing, what should I start doing, and what should I continue doing to be more effective? These frameworks just provide structure to make processing feedback more systematic, actionable, and maybe less overwhelming.
Okay, great practical tools. Now let's talk about perhaps the most proactive step you can take. How to actually ask for better feedback. We don't have to just wait for it to come to us, right? We can actively go out and seek it.
We absolutely can and should.
But the traditional default question, do you have any feedback for me? That often fails miserably, doesn't it? It usually leads to awkward silence or really generic, unhelpful replies like, no, you're doing fine.
Yeah, the path of least resistance for the giver. How do we get meaningful, actionable input instead?
Okay, so what's the secret?
The absolute key is to be specific in your ask. Don't ask generally. Instead, ask about one particular area you're working on or about a specific recent event or piece of work.
Give me some examples.
Okay, instead of any feedback, try, hey, I just submitted that project report last week. When you have a moment, could you give me some specific feedback on its clarity and maybe how I can make the recommendations even stronger next time? Or, after my presentation today, I'd love to know one thing you thought I did particularly well and one specific area where I could improve my delivery for future talks.
Focusing it makes it easier for them.
Exactly. This dramatically lowers the pressure on the giver because they have a clear focus, and it makes it much easier for them to provide concrete, constructive comments rather than vague platitudes. It also powerfully models your own curiosity and your genuine commitment to growth in a specific area.
And I've heard this one, which I think is brilliant. Ask for advice, not feedback.
Yes. This is a fantastic reframing technique. The very word feedback can unconsciously put people into a critical, judgmental mindset, like they're supposed to find fault.
Right, like grading a paper.
Exactly. If you reframe your request as asking for advice or suggestions, it often feels different. Adam Grant, as we mentioned, suggests that powerful phrasing, what's one thing I can do better? This simple change invites coaching and constructive ideas, which feels much more positive and collaborative, and tends to yield significantly more actionable input than a generic request for feedback. It positions the other person as a helpful mentor or coach, not just a judge of your past actions.
Advice, not feedback.
Yeah.
Got it. What else?
Also, time your request well. Ask for input reasonably soon after a relevant event, maybe when a project wraps up, right after a key meeting, or following a specific interaction while the details are still fresh in everyone's minds. Don't wait months later when memories have faded.
Makes sense. And the setting matters too.
Definitely. Ensure the person isn't stressed, distracted, or rushing off somewhere. Try to choose a relatively calm, private setting where they can give you their thoughtful attention. Timely and well-considered feedback is far more relevant and impactful than trying to recall specifics from ages ago.
And crucially, think about choosing your feedback givers thoughtfully. Don't just ask anyone or only people who you know will say nice things.
Right. For a really full picture, especially in a work context, think about applying that 360-degree approach, even informally. Actively seek input from different perspectives, your peers, any direct reports you might have, your manager, and maybe even key clients or collaborators if appropriate.
Why is that diversity so important?
Because different people see different facets of your work and behavior. Your peers, for instance, often have the best view of your day-to-day collaboration habits, your real-time problem-solving approach, or subtle communication styles that your boss, who might see you less frequently or in different contexts, might completely miss. And don't overlook trusted mentors, people whose opinions you deeply respect, who you know have your best interests at heart, and who you believe will be both honest and constructive. Even in your personal life, be intentional. Proactively ask your partner, family members, or close friends for input on specific areas you're working on. Like, hey, I'm really trying to be more present and less distracted when we're together. Have you noticed any changes recently, or do you have any suggestions for me? The goal is a diverse range of valuable perspectives, not just an echo chamber.
Okay, this is maybe the most important one. Create a safe space for honesty. This seems absolutely critical, especially if you're in a position of authority, a leader, a manager, a parent.
It is paramount.
Yeah.
You have to actively, explicitly encourage candor. You might need to say something like, I genuinely want to get better at X, and your honest perspective would be incredibly valuable to me. Please don't worry about hurting my feelings. I really welcome your candid thoughts. Even if they're critical, I promise I won't be upset.
And then you have to follow through on that promise.
You must follow through. When they do summon the courage to share something difficult or critical, you absolutely must model calm listening, genuine curiosity, maybe ask clarifying questions like in the ESPA models, and sincere gratitude for their honesty.
What happens if you react badly?
If you get defensive, argue, dismiss their feedback, or worse, somehow punish them for it later, even subtly, you've just taught them and anyone who witnesses it never to be honest with you again. You shut down the flow of potentially invaluable information. Instead, sincerely thank them for their courage and their insight, even if the feedback stings. The psychological safety you build through your consistent positive reactions over time will yield exponentially more useful and truthful feedback in the long run.
That CEO example you mentioned earlier, interviewing his reports for advice, really highlights that.
Exactly. By regularly asking for and graciously receiving tough feedback, he normalized open, truthful dialogue from the very top down, creating a culture where people felt safe to speak up.
Okay, finally, let's talk briefly about incorporating feedback into daily growth. How can we make this luck of the special event and more of a continuous, almost unconscious loop?
One simple practice is a weekly reflection. Set aside just 10 or 15 minutes at the end of each week to ask yourself, what's one piece of feedback or advice I received this week, whether formal or informal? Maybe it was something someone said, something you observed about your own reaction, or even just nonverbal cues you picked up on. Jot it down quickly and note one small thing you'll try to do differently based on it. This regular brief check-in keeps you in that continuous growth mindset loop.
I like that. What about involving others?
You could set up a routine with a trusted friend, or a peer, maybe call it a feedback buddy system. Agree to connect regularly, say once a month, specifically to exchange constructive feedback. Maybe share one thing you noticed the other person did really well that month and one specific suggestion for something they could work on. This makes giving and receiving feedback feel less threatening, more reciprocal and supportive, and it normalizes the whole process as a shared journey of improvement.
That could take the pressure off.
It really can. And for those in leadership roles, establishing team norms around feedback can be incredibly powerful. For example, making one improvement idea a standard part of the debrief after every project, presentation, or significant meeting can powerfully normalize continuous improvement and take away the stigma often associated with needing to fix things. It reframes improvement as a collective goal, not an individual failing.
And finally, it's not all about the negative.
Absolutely not. Remember, feedback isn't just about fixing your weaknesses. If you get feedback or even just observe yourself that something worked really, really well, that's pure gold. Don't just gloss over it. Double down on that strength. Take the time to understand why it worked so well. Was it a specific skill you used? A particular approach. Both constructive criticism and genuine praise are invaluable guides on your journey to continuous improvement and becoming truly effective. They are absolutely two sides of the same crucial coin of growth.
Well, you've made it to the end of this deep dive. Today, we've taken a pretty comprehensive look at integrating feedback, uncovering how to truly transform it from maybe a source of dread into a powerful accelerator of your personal and professional growth.
We really explored how to overcome your brain's natural biological resistance to criticism by consciously adopting an open and proactive growth mindset. We then delved into some proven practical frameworks like SBI, Kaiwine, and the comprehensive 360-degree feedback, showing how they can make these often difficult conversations clearer, much more constructive, and ultimately more effective and impactful for everyone involved, both givers and receivers.
And we also explored the future-focused power of feedforward, asking for advice on what to do next time. And we equipped you with practical tools like journaling for reflection, structured templates like the feedback log or stop, start, continue, and strategic ways to proactively ask for better, more actionable advice instead of just waiting for generic feedback.
Yeah, and this isn't just theory. These are habits and approaches you can start building into your life today, immediately. They can make a real difference.
Remember, feedback truly is a gift, even when it doesn't feel like it in the moment. It shows us the path to becoming the person we aspire to be, holding within it the seed of every improvement and the blueprint for unlocking your full capabilities.
It really is, as we've explored today, your absolute secret weapon for growth, if you choose to see it that way.
So here's your provocative thought and growth action step for the week. Your challenge, should you choose to accept it, is to solicit one piece of specific feedback or advice and actually reflect on it, maybe even act on it. Choose just one area where you genuinely want to improve. Identify one person in your life at work or home who you believe can offer honest insight.
Take the plunge.
And use the tips we discussed today. Be specific. Ask for advice. Create safety to strategically ask them for their perspective. When you receive it, practice welcoming it with curiosity and gratitude, even if it's tough. Take that one small intentional step.
As you embrace feedback, reflect on it, act on it, and watch yourself grow stronger, wiser, and more capable over time, you will become the person who is genuinely hungry for input, always learning, always improving, and always evolving. That's the journey.